Hello and welcome to the podcast hosted by myself, Louis Kessinger, and my dad, Tommy. We are a part of the Kessinger Lee Group at Baird and have been serving investors in our area for 4 generations. Our goal is to start a conversation around topics within the world of finance and to educate you, our listeners. All right, welcome back to another episode of what we have affectionately called the history of the Kessinger Lee Group. We've had 2 episodes so far. We started out in the late 40s, early 50s with TBK Sr., starting out as a stockbroker, opening an office for Hilliard Lyons in Lexington, moving into the 70s and 80s where TBK Jr. Served as a stockbroker, worked as a stockbroker for a decade before leaving this profession or that profession and going into the thoroughbred industry. And then we got to 1993.
Yep,
TBK
I'm here.
3 came on and joined Hilliard Lyons. Last episode, we talked to Chris Lee, who started in 2003. And now here we are with the 4th advisor, or really, I guess, the 3rd advisor on the Kessinger Lee Group.
3rd advisor, 3rd generation.
Yes. And Ben Kessinger.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So, Ben, obviously you're my uncle. Give you quick introduction. So we've got a family affair here today. But you started in 2011. What were you doing before then? What kind of led up to where we are now?
So before I started here, I was working in the thoroughbred horse industry.
Okay.
And I was running a family farm in Paris,
Yeah.
Kentucky, and I also was managing some racing partnerships. And so that's sort of what led me somewhat to here was that I had put together a racing partnership, and I was out hunting money at the time, raising, and it was just post-financial crisis, and I had to do it in a short period of time. And
Yeah.
so I was asking Tommy for some advice on approaching how I should approach some people, and just letting him look over the materials. And so I was able to raise that money in a short period of time and ran off with the partnership. And when I raised that money afterwards and I went out to start buying horses, Tommy called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come in and talk to me?" And so when I did, he said, if you can raise money for something people don't need, surely you can get money. Surely you can get money from people for something they do need.
Yeah. I love that.
And so that's sort of what started the conversation.
Yeah.
It was good that I started out in the horse industry. I think stocks is something that I've always been interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was younger, but at the same time, I also viewed it as this was Tommy's domain. And so I didn't really ever think about approaching or saying anything about it. And quite frankly, during summers, during college, and after college, I never had to look for a job because people just kept offering me jobs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You did some cool stuff. So talk about
Yeah, one of the
Dubai.
coolest was
Yeah.
like weed eating around Keeneland, right? That was pretty good. No, but you did get to do some cool
backstage
stuff.
passes at Keeneland. But
Exactly.
yeah.
What were some of those other things that you did right out of college?
So let's see. At the end of college, I worked at a track called Monmouth Park on the Jersey Shore.
That's right.
And towards the end, the general manager there, Bob Kalina, called me into his office and said, "Hey, I'd love for you remind me of myself when I was your age. Would you be interested in coming and being under my wing here at Monmouth Park?" And at the time, I had a semester left of school. I had a couple of classes left to take, and so I had to turn them down. And then I got a call literally like a couple of weeks later about selling some stallion seasons for a farm that I worked for 2 summers, Darby Dan. And so it really makes me laugh because when when I first started, or I guess when I went to Hilliard to meet with Jim Allen, as I was going through the interview process to officially get hired, I went up there and he was like, "Have you ever cold called before?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And I remember my first day at Darby Dam, they just said, "We have these new stallions. We want you to call people about these new stallions." They didn't give me any training whatsoever. They said, "Look through the Thoroughbred Daily News and see if there's a pedigree that would fit one of these stallions and call that person." So my first cold call, I literally called this old hard boot, and he knew I was nervous on the phone when I immediately called.
It's good.
And so I called him and said, "Would you like to breed this mare to this stallion?" And he said, "Well, why should I be interested in breeding that?" And I sort of hesitated for a second. He said, "Is it because it's similar breeding?" And he started doing my whole pitch for me. And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly why you should." And so at the very end of the call, he goes, "Well, you've given me a lot to think about." He said, "Next time you call, sharpen your pencil." And
Right.
so it was one of those learning lessons for sure of, hey, make sure you know what you're talking about before you call people. But also in that interview, Jim Allen said something along the lines of, "Have you ever had to give people bad news?" And so in the horse business, that is definitely something that you do have to give, because if a mare or a yearling runs through a fence and dies and they don't have insurance, then you're totally out of luck. So after I told him that story, he essentially said, "I think you'll be all right, because when things go wrong here, you rarely lose all your money." So
Yeah, exactly. And Ben and I both grew up around our father's barn, hot walking horses and what have you. And I think both of us have heard every reason imaginable why a horse didn't win a particular race. Yeah. So like I got used to hearing reasons that I didn't even know existed for why things went bad. So honestly, this job's way easier than the horse world, in my opinion, but also not as exhilarating. I mean, right? It's kind of the highs in the horse industry are manic. Yeah. They're awesome.
They're home runs.
They're grand slam home runs.
Yeah. Or even just you get to go to the track for the day. Sometimes that's a little more fun than watching CNBC and placing some trail. Right? You see a winner out there. That's exciting. You got a crowd out there.
But I went from selling stallions. So I went from Monmouth, went to selling stallion seasons. I did that for a year, and then I got an interesting call from Kevin Greeley, who was running. He was head of racing in Dubai, and his brother was who I worked under at Monmouth Park, and so war was getting ready to break out in 2002, and so somebody that was supposed to go there had a family, and he backed out at the last minute. And so I get a call out of the blue that said, "Hey, this is Kevin Greeley. I'm the head of the Dubai Racing. We would love for you to possibly come and work here for the racing season. Caveat is I need to know in 48 hours." And so I asked him, I was like, "What made you pick me?" He said, "Well, I called my brother, and my brother said, you need somebody that's young that doesn't have a family." And he said, he told me no, but I think for something like this, he might be willing to do it. And so I've been very lucky in that I've been able to work under some pretty awesome people that have given me a lot of great advice. And at the time, I went into John Phillips, who was the head of Darby Dam Farm, and told him what was happening. And he sat me down and he said, I'll talk to you like I would a son. He said, life's about experiences. And he was like, this would be an experience that you will forever remember, and a lifelong lesson, and you would never be able to do this again. If you wait a couple of years, you'll probably get married and have kids, and you won't have the opportunity to do it again. He goes, I'll have to replace your job, but you'll be able to get this when you come back if you wanted to at another place. And so that was pretty awesome that he wasn't being selfish, because he could have very easily been selfish and looked out for his own interests, but he cared enough about me to let me do it. And it was one of the greatest experiences that I could have done, for sure. I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about this country, because we live in this amazing place, but you also don't know what other people, because there's people from all over the world there, and so you heard a lot of their opinions on the way that we do things, and some are great, and some they think we could do better. So.
Yeah.
true today.
And they're probably right on both fronts.
Exactly.
So, so then you get into 2011, and Dad, I'll ask you this. I mean, how did you see that sort of as Ben is? You know, he said that you called him, hey, if you can sell something people don't need, to them. You know, what's going through your mind as you're thinking, hey, maybe this is something, that could work.
Yeah, so piggybacking, for those of you that have listened to the last episode where Chris and I were talking about combining, one of the impetuses for Chris joining the practice was our grandfather was really slowing down and, fading back in terms of his input in the business. And so Chris and I picked up that piece and ran with it until really 2010. We sort of looked at each other. Ironically, Ben, at the end, it was sort of like the end of tax season. And it was like, holy cow, I don't know if I can do this again with just the two of us.
Yeah.
And, and you had some things going on in your life. And it just, the timing seemed right. Mm-hmm. So Chris and I talked a lot about it. We talked to some other people. What would it look like to bring in a third partner? Mm-hmm. And so we started that conversation somewhere early 2011. Mm-hmm. Ben joined us in June, officially in June of 2011. We had you go to Louisville so that it wasn't just our bias of, hey, we think this, it's my brother. Of course I'm going to be biased. But we also knew he had a skill, mm-hmm. In terms of talking to people about assets, and our assets don't require vet bills, mm-hmm. and they don't require feed every day, and you don't know what to do with them when they can't race, and can't be sold. So we felt like Ben would be a great logical piece to the puzzle, but really business just started to pick up. We were coming out of that financial crisis mm-hmm. of the 08-09. 2011 was a big year for international. Greece was going through a big hard time. Mm-hmm. The bonds of Italy were blowing out because people weren't sure they could meet their obligations. So there was still some remnants of that. But I mean, the market sort of pulled back in late 2011, like right as you got licensed. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's gone down since, really. I mean, so
yeah, it's funny. I was watching Chris's, and it's the polar opposite. Chris went through nothing but a down market when he started, and I started laughing. I was like, I don't know what was wrong with him because it's done nothing but jokingly. Yeah. But no,
what are you too scared of over there? Why do you keep buying bonds?
Pretty good 15-year bull market since 2011 with
it has been
a few hiccups, but nothing really.
But really, the impetus was growth.
Yeah.
Truly, the impetus was growth. It was just you got to be able to take care of people the right way. Ben was used to taking care of people with very expensive assets, mm-hmm. and so it was now there's a learning curve on our side, but I feel like your learning curve was compressed because you'd already been dealing with very precious assets.
Yeah, it was very similar. I mean, people ask me what's the difference all the time, and I say it's just a different asset. I was managing people's portfolios. They were portfolios of mares, and at the same time, when you're going to breed a mare, I have to pick out and advise on a stallion that it takes 3 years to go to market from the time you pick out that stallion. And so I needed to make sure that not only is it hopefully going to be a good-looking individual, but it still needs to be a hot stallion and hotter than it was what we paid for. So I'm hoping to pay $35,000 for a stallion, and by the time it goes to sell, hopefully that stallion sees in $75,000, and you can sell for that much more. And so it was a lot of the stuff was very similar. There's mm-hmm. parallels to mm-hmm. it, and at the end of the day, you're still dealing with people and dealing with clients, and so. Yeah. From that standpoint, there's a lot of similarity.
And interestingly enough, one of the processes that we all use to this day, we talk about things in terms of 3 years. Mm-hmm. We talk about you're going to buy a company that is hopefully today undervalued. It's going to take 2 years for that to become fairly valued, and then that an additional year, 3 years. It sort of matches up.
Yeah.
That it will possibly become overvalued. So similar processes if you put your mind around it.
And the good news is that in 2011, Ben, you had nothing really else going on life-wise.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to just focus on learning a brand new business, right?
Yeah, the funniest thing looking back on is people call me crazy as can be because when I transitioned over, I'm changing a job. We are getting ready to have identical twins.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then we had moved, and so the 3 hardest things you do in life, I did all within a couple of months of each other. And at the same time, I was like, it's probably better to do it all at once because you don't know any different.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was, but it definitely was a wild time that we had the twins. And then I had to go to training literally the next week in Louisville. And so I didn't stay in Louisville. I drove back and forth. And I remember the 3rd day, they were like, oh, my God, he's like the Walking Dead. Because I'd been up feeding all night. So.
Well, you made it through training. Obviously, the folks in Louisville saw the parallels and the potential that you had. You start at Hilliard. You start on the team. What do those first years look like as you're sort of getting built up in the team, but also, on your own? Sort of, what did that look like getting started?
For me, I bet it was a lot different than some other people. One, I came in and I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
I had a lot of relationships with people that had means. But the main thing was that I had Tommy. And so, being able to approach people with somebody who has the experience. I mean, at the end of the day, I think all the time experience is the wisest teacher. And I feel very blessed that I came out to Beaumont at the time because there were a lot of older advisors who gave me a lot of great advice at that time. And also, they didn't treat me like I was competition, which is very important because I think that sometimes there can be that feeling that we're all competing against each other. But they were very welcoming to me. But at the end of the day, having Tommy to help shepherd me, it sped up my, I guess, trajectory a lot faster because they knew somebody that really knew what they were doing was behind the money. I was more so bringing in money and then just piggybacking off of what he had already sort of set in place as far as
and Ben really helped us streamline that process. Like Chris and I had the ideas, and Ben really challenged us to like, hey, we need to streamline this, make it simple. And we were both like, oh yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, coming out of the crisis really blew our minds. But
that was for a lot of reasons, right? Because you're coming out of the brokerage world, you're coming out of a lot of things that were there product wise that are now gone because the company's gone. But then you're getting into, hey, we've got this product for this solution, we've got this fund for this solution, we've got this fund for this, an annuity here. And as I understand it, Ben was kind of like, hey, why don't we just invest in some stocks that go up?
Right?
Like, why don't we just invest in growth?
Yeah, it's in the name.
I mean,
I literally said that one time.
It's in the name.
I was like, they were like, asked me something about a small cap. I was like, well, duh, we want to do the growth. I mean, why would you not want to invest in the growth?
Hello.
But I
So
do think that.
but there's a lot of truth there, right?
I came along at a great time in that the brokerage deal was done.
Yeah.
I knew that I had people that I wanted to approach that have a lot of money. A mutual fund ain't going to do it for them. And so they were coming out of previously before people had a certain set of money, and then that grew to a certain set of money to where they then had graduated to needing more solutions. And so then we started looking at things differently. I was like, what is it that is going to attract for me to get new business? And luckily we came upon AQA, which was something that was
A growth
a growth
strategy.
strategy that was individual stocks, and so we dug deep into that, and that helped really propel, and it was something that I could go out and talk to people about that was different, as well as was an individual stock strategy that I think was better for our clients. And then we narrowed it down into a couple other processes that are individual stock strategies, and I think it's really helped streamline the way that we've done some business.
Agree.
And I think, during COVID, I remember Tommy and I, we were all talking, we're on Zoom, meeting every day about things. And Tommy says it all the time. At that time, I was like, if you aren't on if you don't have a shot trying to manage things, if you're not on a process, and it's still hard sometimes, I can't remember exactly how you say it.
Well, no, you encapsulated it perfect. It was like, if you've got a process, you got a chance. If you're not on a process, you have absolutely no chance of making the right moves. And it's so true. And so we've really honed in on that. And every crisis gives all of us, anybody in the industry, an opportunity to go, okay, what went right? What went wrong? And what can I do different?
Yeah.
And it's those things that make the next crisis bearable, and it makes the next crisis more of an opportunity than a crisis.
Well, and you say process, and you're talking about an investment process, and not just picking stocks or picking funds that you hope do well and then pivoting if they don't. And so that's sort of I'll call it era that you started in, was the emergence of
the process
in the investment process. And that has now transformed into and evolved and grown into, if you don't have a plan, you don't really have a shot, because you don't know what's going on. Because you might have stuff at the bank and stuff at, your work plan, and stuff with your advisor, and stuff in a trust somewhere. And so if you don't have a place where you can see everything, in one spot, then it's really hard to know
what to do,
if you're doing all right or what to do. And from what I've seen since, we've worked together, especially in the beginning when I was really doing a lot of the planning for the team, you were probably the first one to really embrace, hey, Louis, you do plans, right? Cool. I've got a bunch of clients that I want you to do them for. And you were like, you know how to do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so that was cool for me to come into those meetings, and it was a good way for me to learn, hey, what does a meeting look like? What is a financial plan? What is this investment process? Now I get to see it because it's a part of the plan. So,
and I also think that, like, Tommy was great to me when I was first starting out, of bringing me in on those, because at the end of the day, you don't really know how to talk to people in these meetings until you've gone through it over and over again. I still think all the time we're all getting better at what we do, because this business changes all the time. And so I wanted to make sure that you had those same sort of experiences as well. And there's certain things that I really like to do. And that's why I think the evolution of the team is, people are really good at certain things, and some people aren't as good at certain things, and that's okay, as long as you have those holes filled with people who are really good at those tasks and skills. And so I think from the beginning, I was like, this is where things are going. As far as, people don't want just a single advisor. They want to know that they've got a team of people who are all working in conjunction with each other to make sure that I get everything that I need covered.
It gives that client peace of mind.
Yeah.
It got multiple eyes on the issue. I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, we've covered a lot. We've covered where you were before the start, and even got up into kind of some of the COVID era investment process, into the planning. I'll put both of you on the spot in terms of what's been your favorite part of working with your brother. I'll pose it to both of you.
Yeah. Well, listen, for this team, it really is about family, and being able to share the experiences with people who enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
Is a huge win. And, we all have families. You're, beginning that process. And I think it's an amazing thing to be able to do this together and watch the families grow. I mean, Chris has got 4 kids, 1 graduating from college. That blows my mind. And, another in college, another going, and 1 left in high school. And Ben's girls start high school next year. I mean, working with each other, you become embedded in each other's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's fun in that we laugh a lot.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good, and the I guess the most fun part is we're each other's biggest cheerleaders.
Yes.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like when each of us have a big win, it is awesome to come in and give a big high five and job well done. And you know how few and far between those big wins are, and so it's awesome to celebrate together. It's pretty funny that there's some funny stories along the way of Tommy always gets a kick out of. Everybody thinks that I'm his older brother, and I'm always like, "You got to be kidding me!" He's like 8 years older than me.
Yeah, look
what
how old he is.
So that's always fun. He really gets a good kick out of that. But there's other funny stories along the way. I remember when I was first starting out, I went from never dressing up hardly ever except to go to the races to coming in and having to build a new wardrobe of nice clothes and stuff. And I remember it had an important meeting one day with a person, and I'm leading them through to come down and talk to Tommy and I. And when I escort them out and say thanks or whatever, our receptionist at the time said, "Are you feeling breezy, Ben?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, Your pants are frayed in the back." And so I run down to Tommy. I'm like, "Dude, why didn't you tell me my pants are ripped?" They're going to be like, "I don't want to invest with this guy. He doesn't have any money." And then he goes, "No, you're seeing it totally wrong." They're going to be like, "We need to give him some money so he can buy some new pants."
That's awesome. Well, I'll say for me, almost on polar opposites for each of you, what's been fun for me is I always knew my dad, really well in a close personal relationship because he's my dad. I knew that he went to work every day. I knew it was at Hilliard Lions. Sometimes we went down and parked in the office to go to a basketball game when I was little. But other than that, I didn't really know what the business was until really I started college and figured out what any job was. So it's been fun for me to get to see that side of you. And then on the flip side, it's fun to get to know you out of just, oh, that's my Uncle Ben. Like, he's got twin daughters and he's funny. But we spend hours together each day that otherwise we wouldn't, and that's been really, really fun for me. So I've really enjoyed that part of working with both of you.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Feel very blessed that the people we work with, you spend more time here with these individuals than you do your own families. And so it's awesome when you really enjoy everybody that you work with. And to do so, it's not always easy working with family. But I always looked up to Tommy when I was younger. So there's that respect.
Mutual respect.
Mutual respect. And so that's it's been fairly easy. I mean, we do think differently on some things, but I think that's great from
That's
a team
helpful.
standpoint of we challenge each other
Yeah.
outside comfort zones because Tommy and Chris are very alike.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came in, it was sort of like I came, brought it a little bit different.
We thought there should be some risk adjustment, but
but I think
that's your shared lived experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Exactly.
really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, I'll just say for me, it's been cool. It's been amazing to see the both of you, along with Chris, but you all being the third generation of Kessingers, but Chris being in that era. It's been cool to see you all, steward this team and this business, and so I'm the first of the fourth generation. But as our team grows, people of my age are coming on to the team. And so, man, I hope I can just continue to learn from you all. And maybe we'll see a fifth generation one day.
We'll see.
Of the Kessinger Lee
Well, I'll
Group.
say it's awesome because I learn a lot from you. You've got
This.
a lot of the technological
Yeah.
things.
Ben and I
down.
would not be doing podcasts.
would not be doing. So I think it's just great.
We're excited.
It's exciting, but back at you as when you were born, I was in college.
Yeah.
And so, when you're in college, you're in your own sort of little world and territory. So
Totally.
while we knew each other and
Yeah.
so forth, we've gotten to be a lot closer. And
Yeah.
so it's been very fun.
It's been fun. He made me buy his coffee this afternoon, which was, I don't know. I don't know. No, it's been great. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. This has been
and
great, Louis. Thanks.
yeah,
Good idea.
We always enjoy. And thanks for listening to episode 3. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not an offer to buy or sell or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any security or investment or to participate in any particular trading or investment strategy. The information is considered to be from reliable sources, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. We do not offer legal or tax advice, so please consult your tax or legal professional for information specific to your situation. The opinions expressed are those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated. Please note past performance is not indicative of future results, and diversification does not ensure a profit or protect against loss. All investments carry some level of risk, including loss of principal. You should carefully consider investment objectives and risks of any investment before investing. An investment cannot be made directly in an index. Securities and investment advisory services are offered by Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member NYSE, FINRA, and SIPC. You should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of each money market fund carefully before investing. This and other information is found in the applicable prospectus for the money market fund. Contact your Baird financial advisor for a prospectus. Please read the prospectus carefully before investing. Money market funds are managed to maintain a stable $1 share price. An investment in a money market fund is not insured or guaranteed by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or any other government agency. Although the fund seeks to preserve the value of your investment at $1 per share, it is possible to lose money by investing in the fund.